Welcome back, Lincoln Currency. Imagine holding in your hand what appears to be nothing more than a simple penny, a coin that most people would overlook without a second thought, a coin that has rattled in pockets, sat forgotten in drawers, or been tossed carelessly into a jar. But now imagine that this very coin, minted in 1984, a coin with a face value of just 1 cent, could actually be worth not only hundreds, not only thousands, but tens of millions of dollars. At first, it sounds unbelievable, almost absurd, but in the world of coin collecting, numismatics, and rare treasures, stories like these are not only possible but have captured the imagination of collectors and investors for decades. The year 1984 was not particularly famous for coinage in everyday conversation, yet it produced one of the most fascinating pennies ever to come off the presses, a coin that today sparks curiosity, amazement, and even dreams of hidden wealth. The 1984 1-cent coin belongs to the Lincoln Cent series, a lineage of coins that has been minted for over a century. Beginning in 1909 with the introduction of the Lincoln design to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. By 1984, the coin had already gone through several important changes, both in design details and in composition. For the average person in 1984, a penny was just a penny, an unremarkable copper-colored coin used to pay for bubblegum, tucked into piggy banks, or returned as change at the corner store. Yet beneath the ordinary appearance of that year's issue lies a tale of design, weight, composition, and remarkable errors that turned some examples into multimillion-dollar treasures. The coin weighs just 2.5 grams, a detail that might sound trivial, but it actually tells a deeper story. Prior to 1982, pennies in the United States were made primarily of copper, weighing 3.11 grams. However, due to rising copper prices and economic concerns, the mint switched the composition to a core of zinc coated with a thin layer of copper, creating the lighter 2.5-gram coin that became standard from mid-1982 onward. By 1984, this composition was firmly established, and every Lincoln cent rolling off the presses was technically a copper-plated zinc piece, designed to look like copper but relying on the cheaper core metal beneath. This change in weight and composition was one of the most significant in the history of the cent, marking a shift not only in materials but also in the economic realities of minting coins in modern America. But beyond its weight and composition, the 1984 cent carries symbols that connect it to a much larger legacy. On the obverse, or front of the coin, we see the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln, sculpted originally by Victor David Brenner. The words, "In God We Trust," arc along the top, "Liberty" rests to the left, and the date 1984 is stamped clearly to the right of Lincoln's portrait. Beneath the date, if struck in certain locations, you might also find the small mint mark identifying where the coin was produced, whether in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco. The reverse, at least until 2008, carried the image of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., a design by Frank Casparo that replaced the earlier wheat stalks back in 1959. If you look closely at the reverse under magnification, you can even see a tiny depiction of the seated statue of Lincoln within the memorial itself, a remarkable detail that often surprises casual observers. All of these design elements come together to create what appears to be a simple coin, but in the world of collectors, even the smallest details can transform ordinary objects into extraordinary treasures. In 1984, for instance, one of the most famous varieties appeared, known as the 1984 doubled die obverse. This particular error was caused when the die used to strike the coin was improperly manufactured, resulting in a doubling effect that is most clearly seen in Lincoln's ear. Collectors call it the double ear variety, and it is one of the most sought-after errors of the 1980s. To the untrained eye, such a coin might look like any other penny, but to those who know what to look for, that doubling transforms its value from 1 cent into thousands of dollars, and in the highest grades, it becomes a true rarity worth staggering sums. The fascination with such a coin is not only about the physical metal or even the face value. It is about rarity, condition, and the stories that coins can tell. A perfect 1984 double die penny, graded at the highest levels by professional services like PCGS or NGC, can command huge prices at auction. And when collectors talk about astronomical values, numbers like $56 million, they are not simply referring to everyday 1984 pennies that you might find in change. They are referring to the unique, one-of-a-kind, or almost mythical examples that embody perfection, rarity, and desirability all in one piece. Sometimes these figures are fueled by hype, speculation, or internet rumors, but they always spark the imagination. After all, who wouldn't dream of stumbling across a coin in their pocket change that could rival the value of a mansion or a private island? The coin's history is tied not only to Abraham Lincoln and American heritage, but also to the economics and technology of minting. Every strike, every detail, and every error tells us something about the process. In 1984, millions upon millions of pennies were produced, most destined to circulate for years until they became worn, scratched, or discarded. Yet within that sea of ordinary coins, a few extraordinary ones emerged. These coins survived in pristine condition, untouched by circulation, or they carried striking errors that made them stand out from the crowd. It is these coins, the survivors, the mistakes, and the pristine examples, that drive the market today and explain why collectors are willing to pay staggering sums. The market value of a coin is not fixed, and that is part of what makes the story of the 1984 penny so intriguing. On one hand, most examples are still worth just a cent, perhaps a few dollars if they are uncirculated. On the other hand, certain varieties and certain conditions can push values into the thousands, and with enough demand, rumors and reports swirl about examples fetching tens of millions. Even if you never hold such a coin in your hand, the very idea that something so small, so ordinary, could be worth more than a fortune is captivating. And so the story of the 1984 1-cent coin continues to be told, a story of weight, design, history, and the human fascination with rarity and value. As we go deeper into its history and examine the details of how and why certain coins became legends, we begin to understand why people treasure these small discs of metal and why they will continue to capture imaginations for generations to come. When we begin to peel back the layers of history behind the 1984 penny, it becomes clear that it is more than just a small metal disc. It is a reflection of America's economic shifts, its evolving minting technology, and its long-standing respect for Abraham Lincoln. Consider that the Lincoln cent first appeared in 1909, replacing the Indian head cent that had circulated since 1859. When Victor David Brenner created his now iconic design, he chose to capture not just Lincoln's image, but his dignity, his resolve, and the symbolism of a leader who preserved the Union during its darkest hour. For decades, that portrait has remained virtually unchanged, even as the nation transformed around it. By 1984, the coin was no longer struck in copper as it had been in its earliest years, but the image of Lincoln endured, a constant reminder of continuity and legacy. Collectors often remark that coins are small time capsules, tangible artifacts that carry with them the spirit of their age. The 1984 penny is no exception. It whispers stories of the early 1980s, a decade of technological expansion, political debates, and economic adjustments. The switch to copper-plated zinc was not just a decision about saving money. It reflected the broader economic concerns of inflation, rising commodity costs, and the balancing act of a government trying to keep production costs under control. For the mint, each fraction of a cent mattered. For collectors today, that composition shift means that the 1984 penny sits firmly in the modern era of coinage, distinct from its copper predecessors. And yet, in spite of its ordinary composition, it has captured headlines and imaginations for its extraordinary potential value in rare cases. The fascination often revolves around era coins. In 1984, one of the most talked about varieties is the doubled die obverse. A doubled die occurs when the die that strikes the coin is improperly manufactured, causing certain parts of the design to appear doubled or distorted. In the case of the 1984 cent, the doubling is most famously seen on Lincoln's ear, creating the so-called double ear penny. To those who do not know what to look for, the coin may seem perfectly ordinary. But once magnification is applied and the doubling becomes visible, it transforms into a treasure. The market for such coins can fluctuate, but pristine examples graded at the highest levels can sell for thousands of dollars. But beyond just that error, other minor varieties exist: die cracks, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and more. Each of these represents a moment where human oversight or machine imperfection created something different, something unique. In a world of mass production, uniqueness is valuable. Collectors seek these differences because they disrupt the uniformity, and within that disruption lies the thrill of discovery. When you realize that out of billions of pennies struck in 1984, only a handful exhibit these special characteristics, the rarity begins to justify the high values attached to them. And then comes the allure of exaggerated numbers, the whispers, the rumors, the sensational claims that a single 1984 penny could be worth $56 million. On the surface, such a figure seems implausible. After all, even the most famous coins in history rarely cross the threshold of tens of millions. Yet the very mention of such a number excites people, pulls them in, and makes them check their own jars of change, their drawers, their forgotten piggy banks. Could it be true? Could someone actually find a penny worth more than a luxury yacht or a private jet? This is where fact meets folklore. While it is true that rare coins can sell for astronomical prices, especially in private sales where prestige and competition drive bidding wars, the myth of the multimillion-dollar penny is often a mix of reality and exaggeration. Still, the power of that story cannot be denied, because it feeds into one of the most human desires of all, the possibility of unexpected fortune hiding in plain sight. The symbolism of the coin itself deepens this narrative. On the obverse, Lincoln gazes steadfastly, representing not only the man himself but also the values of perseverance, honesty, and unity. The words, "In God we trust," above his head reinforce the national motto, a reflection of American ideals. The simple word, liberty, at his side carries immense weight, a reminder that freedom is central to the nation's identity. And the date, 1984, becomes not just a number, but a marker in time, linking the coin to that particular year, with all its historical context. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial stands as a symbol of reverence and continuity, connecting the coin to both the physical monument in Washington and the broader ideals of democracy. Collectors do not just chase after coins for their metallic content. They chase the stories, the symbolism, and the rarity. Each penny tells a story of minting presses, die strikes, human oversight, and the passage of time. Some pennies traveled the country, buying small goods, passing from hand to hand, while others remained untouched, preserved in rolls, bags, or mint sets. Those untouched survivors, with sharp details and brilliant luster, are the ones that today fetch the highest prices. A 1984 penny graded MS-67 or higher by professional services can be worth hundreds, or even thousands, depending on the market demand. Add in an era variety like the double ear, and the value can climb even further. But why does the market place such staggering value on tiny pieces of metal? The answer lies in a combination of rarity, condition, demand, and emotion. Rarity ensures that not everyone can own one. Condition makes certain examples stand out above the rest. Demand, fueled by collectors, investors, and sometimes even speculators, pushes prices upward. And emotion, the thrill of owning a piece of history, of possessing something unique, adds the final layer of value. In some ways, the coin is not just metal but a token of history, a piece of art, and a treasure hunt all rolled into one. The idea that a 1984 penny could be worth $56 million might sound outlandish, but consider how human psychology works in the market. People are drawn to extreme numbers, to records being broken, to stories of hidden fortunes. Even if the vast majority of 1984 pennies will never be worth more than face value, the idea that a single example could be worth an unimaginable sum keeps the story alive. It is not unlike a lottery ticket. The odds are slim, but the dream is powerful. And when dreams are involved, value becomes more than just economics. It becomes about possibility. That possibility is what keeps coin collectors searching, examining every detail under magnification, checking rolls of pennies from the bank, or even poring through decades-old jars of change. Every coin is a chance, however small, to find that one extraordinary piece. The 1984 penny, with its double-ear variety and its modern composition, represents one of those golden opportunities, and that is why it continues to captivate both seasoned collectors and everyday dreamers alike. The story of the 1984 penny does not stop with its composition, or even its famous double die error. What makes this coin truly legendary is the way it has entered the collective imagination, becoming a symbol of hidden treasure. Think of all the stories that circulate on television, online forums, and among collectors' clubs, where people whisper about coins worth millions sitting unnoticed in circulation. These stories are not just entertainment, they are fuel for the treasure hunt. And in the case of the 1984 penny, they have elevated a humble 1-cent coin into the realm of multi-million-dollar legends. Auction houses have played a key role in this transformation. Imagine a crowded room, the hum of anticipation as collectors and investors sit with paddles in hand, waiting for the next lot to be revealed. When a rare coin appears, especially one tied to a famous era or a unique variety, the atmosphere changes. The bidding begins modestly, but soon it climbs higher and higher, driven by competition, ego, and the desire to own something that no one else can. In these rooms, values can soar, and coins that once seemed modest suddenly command prices that make headlines. While most 1984 pennies will never appear in such an auction, those rare double die obverse examples, in pristine condition, do find their way into the spotlight. And once they are there, they become part of a cycle, sold, resold, talked about, and mythologized. But it is not only the professional auction scene that drives interest. The dream spreads everywhere. People hear about a penny being worth $56 million, and they begin to wonder. They search their own change, magnifying glasses in hand, eyes scanning every detail of Lincoln's profile, every curve of the memorial on the back. Millions of people have checked their coins, hoping to stumble across one of these rare varieties. The chances are slim, of course, but the act of searching is itself an adventure. Each coin examined is another chance, another roll of the dice, and the thought that a life-changing fortune could be hidden in the most ordinary of places keeps people searching year after year. This dream, this sense of possibility, is part of what gives the coin its cultural power. A penny is universal, almost everyone has held one. And so the story of the 1984 penny is relatable in a way that few other treasures are. A diamond or a rare painting may be out of reach for most people, but a penny? Everyone has access to pennies. That accessibility makes the dream more believable, more compelling. Anyone could find one in their pocket change. Anyone could be the next person to uncover a fortune. And in that way, the coin becomes not just a collectible but a symbol of hope, luck, and hidden wealth. Of course, to understand why certain coins become so valuable, one has to appreciate the meticulous grading process that collectors use. Grading is the system by which a coin's condition is assessed, often on a scale from 1 to 70, with higher numbers representing sharper details, brighter luster, and fewer imperfections. A 1984 penny fresh from the mint, never touched by circulation, might grade as MS65, MS67, or even higher if it is nearly flawless. Each step upward in grade can mean a significant jump in value. A coin worth $100 in one grade might be worth $1,000 in a higher grade. Add in an error like the double die obverse, and suddenly the value multiplies again. This is why collectors take such care in handling, storing, and preserving coins. The tiniest scratch, the smallest imperfection, can change the market value dramatically. And then there is the emotional element. When someone pays a huge sum for a coin, they are not just buying metal, they are buying prestige, status, and a story. Owning a rare coin is like owning a piece of history, a slice of time frozen in metal. The 1984 penny, with its ordinary appearance and extraordinary potential, offers perhaps the most dramatic contrast of all. To the casual eye, it is nothing special. To the trained eye, it can be a fortune. That duality, ordinary versus extraordinary, is at the heart of its fascination. The 1984 penny also highlights something about the way we view value itself. Value is not always intrinsic. A penny's intrinsic value, based on its metal content, is less than a cent, especially with its zinc composition. Yet the market places values of thousands, even millions, upon certain examples. This shows how value is shaped not only by what something is made of, but by rarity, demand, and the stories attached to it. Humans have always placed extraordinary value on rare and unique objects, whether they are coins, stamps, paintings, or artifacts. The 1984 penny is just one more example of that timeless pattern. Imagine for a moment the journey of one such coin. Freshly struck in 1984, it leaves the mint, gleaming and new. Perhaps it is rolled into a paper wrapper, shipped to a bank, then handed out as change at a grocery store. For years it circulates, buying candy, sitting in pockets, passed from person to person. Then, by sheer luck, someone notices something strange, a doubling on the ear, a sharper detail, something unusual. They set it aside. Years later, it is graded, recognized as rare, and suddenly its value skyrockets. That coin, once worth just a cent, is now worth thousands or even more. This transformation, from overlooked change to prized treasure, is what makes coin collecting so thrilling. The market for coins is dynamic, always shifting with demand, discoveries, and changing tastes. At one moment, a certain variety may be the hottest item, with collectors clamoring to acquire it. At another moment, interest may wane, only to resurge years later. But the 1984 penny, especially its double-ear variety, has maintained steady interest for decades now. Its fame continues to grow, fueled by articles, videos, and discussions. And with every retelling of its story, the legend expands. The figure of $56 million may not reflect actual market sales, but it has cemented itself as part of the narrative, a reminder that even the most modest of objects can become the stuff of dreams when rarity and imagination intertwine. So the coin continues to live in two worlds. In one world, it is ordinary, a common cent, one of billions. In the other world, it is extraordinary, a treasure, a legend worth fortunes. That tension between the ordinary and the extraordinary is what makes it unforgettable. For every person who dismisses it as nothing more than pocket change, there is another who sees it as a potential goldmine. And that duality is what keeps the story alive, generation after generation, search after search. The deeper one looks into the story of the 1984 penny, the more it reveals not only about the coin itself but about people, about the human relationship with money, rarity, and history. Every coin, no matter how small, is both a piece of currency and a piece of art. It is designed, approved, struck, and released into the world with intention. Yet, once in circulation, it takes on a life of its own, shaped by the hands that hold it and the imaginations that interpret it. The 1984 penny is no exception, and its journey from an ordinary coin to an object of legend shows how meaning and value can grow far beyond face value. When Victor David Brenner first carved the portrait of Abraham Lincoln for the cent in 1909, he could not have predicted the legacy his design would carry. He was chosen at a time when the mint was breaking tradition, introducing a president's image onto circulating coinage for the very first time. Before Lincoln, presidents had never appeared on American coins, as early leaders thought it was too monarchical, too reminiscent of kings and emperors. Yet Lincoln's legacy was so powerful, his memory so revered, that his face became the exception. And that exception became the rule. By 1984, 75 years later, the Lincoln portrait had become a familiar fixture, a part of daily life. Everyone knew the coin, everyone recognized the face, but few considered that within those millions of strikes lay rare treasures that would one day command attention and money on a scale no one expected. The reverse design by Frank Gasparo, showing the Lincoln Memorial, was meant to honor both Lincoln and the national symbol of remembrance built in his honor. To most, it was just a building on the back of a coin. But look closely, and you see tiny columns, delicate engraving, and even the faint suggestion of Lincoln's statue inside the memorial. These details remind us that coins are miniature works of art, requiring both artistry and engineering. That level of detail, when combined with errors like doubling, becomes even more striking, because it shows how a single flaw in the minting process can transform a work of art into something altogether new. Collectors often speak of the thrill of discovery. The idea that something so small, so easily overlooked, could be worth a fortune is intoxicating. It makes people look more closely at their surroundings, to study rather than glance, to appreciate details they once ignored. The 1984 double-ear penny is a perfect example. To the casual glance, Lincoln's profile looks the same as always. But with patience and close examination, one notices the doubling, the subtle second curve of the ear, the minute difference that suddenly transforms the coin into a rarity. That act of discovery, that moment when the eye catches the doubling, is thrilling in itself, long before money even enters the picture. It is the joy of seeing something rare, something hidden, something not everyone else sees, and then, of course, comes the matter of value. Why should one tiny flaw make a coin worth thousands, or even more? The answer lies in rarity, in demand, and in the psychology of collectors. Humans are drawn to the rare, to the unique, to the one of a kind. The very fact that billions of pennies were struck in 1984 makes the rare double-die variety even more compelling. Out of the billions, only a handful are different. Those few stand apart, and it is in that separation, that uniqueness, that value is created. The market thrives on this principle, turning errors into treasures, imperfections into fortunes. The stories that circulate, of a 1984 penny being worth $56 million, may stretch reality, but they capture a deeper truth, that a single coin can change everything. Even if the number itself is exaggerated, the idea carries weight. People dream of finding such a coin because it represents not only wealth but possibility, the possibility that the ordinary world hides extraordinary secrets. This dream is timeless. It is the same dream that drove prospectors to pan for gold, treasure hunters to sail oceans, and archaeologists to dig in the sand. The penny, in its way, is a modern treasure, hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone with sharp eyes to recognize it. Consider the economic context of 1984 itself. The United States Mint was operating at full scale, striking coins in massive numbers to meet circulation demands. The shift from copper to copper-plated zinc just 2 years earlier was still a fresh memory. For the Mint, the goal was efficiency, uniformity, and cost-effectiveness. For collectors, the interest lay in the exact opposite, in finding the coins that defied uniformity, the ones that broke from efficiency. This contrast explains the tension at the heart of coin collecting. The Mint aims for sameness, while collectors seek difference. And the 1984 penny, with its famous double-die obverse, is one of those precious differences that slip through the cracks. Auction records over the years tell stories of coins fetching surprising sums. While the average collector might only dream of selling a penny for millions, there are real cases where rare varieties, in top condition, achieve 5- or 6-figure prices. Each sale fuels the legend, encouraging more people to search, to hope, to dream. And sometimes, a coin that has been sitting in a collection for decades suddenly reemerges, making headlines and reminding the world once again of the hidden fortunes locked in small metal discs. But beyond the money, the 1984 penny speaks to something deeper, the human need to connect with history. Coins are history you can hold in your hand. Unlike a document or a painting, a coin is durable, tangible, meant for use, for touch, for exchange. It carries the fingerprints of countless people, the passage of years, the weight of history. When collectors hold a rare penny, they are not just holding metal. They are holding a piece of the past, a relic that ties them to the year it was minted, to the people who used it, to the world that produced it. In this way, the 1984 penny is both a collectible and a time machine, a bridge between then and now, and so the fascination continues. The penny that was once ignored, once considered too small to matter, is now one of the most talked about coins of the 1980s. Its legend has grown, fueled by stories, records, and dreams. And with every retelling, with every new discovery, the legend expands, ensuring that the 1984 penny will remain a subject of curiosity, speculation, and desire for years to come. The legend of the 1984 penny does not belong to numbers and grades alone. It belongs to the people who search for it, the families who gather coins in jars, the collectors who spend hours with magnifying glasses and bright lights, scrutinizing each curve of Lincoln's profile, each detail of the memorial on the reverse. It belongs to those who find joy in discovery, who feel a pulse of excitement every time they spot a detail that seems unusual, a doubling of a line, a crack in the die, a shift in the strike. For them, the coin is not just metal, it is an adventure, a story, and sometimes even a legacy. Imagine a child in the 1980s, emptying change from a pocket onto the kitchen table, pennies scattered alongside nickels, dimes, and quarters. To most, the pennies are the least important, the smallest denomination, often ignored. But to a collector in training, even a child, those pennies are windows into history. Some are shiny and new, others darkened with age. The dates tell stories, numbers from years before they were born. And once in a while, a coin reveals something unusual, a mint mark in an unexpected place, a doubling on the ear, a strange strike. In that moment, a fascination is born, one that can last a lifetime. The 1984 penny, with its double ear variety, has been that spark for countless people, igniting curiosity and sending them on a path into the world of numismatics. The psychology of the hunt is powerful. Humans are wired to search, to seek out patterns, to find the rare among the common. This instinct goes back to survival, to finding food, to spotting dangers, to recognizing opportunity. In the modern world, where survival is less immediate, this instinct finds new outlets. For some, it is in collecting art or stamps. For others, it is in sifting through coins. The 1984 penny offers a perfect challenge. Billions of coins exist, but only a few carry the error. The search is both difficult and possible, a perfect balance that keeps people engaged. If the error were too rare, almost mythical, the search might feel hopeless. If it were too common, it would lose its magic. But the 1984 penny strikes that balance, rare enough to be thrilling, yet real enough to be found, and so the coin has created stories, not only of wealth but of human connection. Families sit together sorting through jars of change. Collectors teach their children how to use magnifying glasses, how to recognize doubling, how to care for coins without damaging them. Friendships are formed in collector clubs, where people trade stories of discoveries, display their prized pieces, and share the joy of the hunt. The 1984 penny, though just one small coin, becomes a point of connection, a bridge between generations, a shared dream passed from one person to another. What makes this coin even more fascinating is how it bridges the gap between the ordinary and the extraordinary. On one level, it is the most common coin in America, a cent, something almost everyone ignores. On another level, it is a rare treasure that can bring wealth and prestige. That contrast is what keeps the fascination alive. Every time someone picks up a penny, even without thinking, there is the possibility, however slim, that it could be something more. That possibility lingers in the background of daily life, turning the most mundane act into a tiny moment of hope. The economics of coin collecting also add layers to the story. The market for coins is not just about collectors but also about investors, speculators, and even storytellers. A story about a penny worth $56 million may sound exaggerated, but it fuels demand. It brings more people into the hobby, more eyes searching, more hands checking. That demand drives up prices, which in turn fuels more stories. It is a cycle, and the 1984 penny has become a central part of that cycle. The number 56 million does not need to be proven in an auction to have power. The power lies in the dream it creates, the imagination it sparks, and the conversations it fuels. And then there is the idea of preservation. Coins are fragile in their own way. While they are designed for durability and circulation, they are easily scratched, worn, or tarnished. The difference between a circulated 1984 penny and one preserved in mint state can be the difference between a coin worth 1 cent and a coin worth thousands. This is why collectors use special holders, cases, and albums, why they handle coins by the edges, why they keep them away from air, moisture, and oils from the skin. They know that condition is everything, and that one careless moment can reduce a coin's value forever. The 1984 penny teaches patience and care, because to hold on to such a coin in pristine condition requires dedication and respect. Beyond collectors and markets, the coin also exists in the realm of culture and myth. It has become part of a larger narrative, one where ordinary people can stumble upon extraordinary wealth. News articles, YouTube videos, social media posts, all retell the story, each time adding a little more shine to the legend. The myth of the multimillion-dollar penny is now as important as the coin itself. It has made the 1984 cent not just a collectible, but a cultural icon, a symbol of possibility. Even people who have never held a coin under magnification know the story, and that awareness ensures the legend continues to grow. The allure of coins like the 1984 penny also reflects something about how humans value history. We live in a fast-moving world, where technology changes daily, where digital money moves invisibly, where paper currency is slowly disappearing. Coins, however, remain physical, tangible, heavy with symbolism. They are reminders of continuity, of tradition, of the weight of history in the palm of a hand. The 1984 penny is a relic of the 1980s, carrying the style, the minting practices, the economic realities of its time. To own one is to hold a piece of that decade, frozen in copper-plated zinc, preserved for the future. It is remarkable to think that the smallest denomination coin could become one of the most legendary. Pennies are often discarded, dropped without thought, ignored by many who feel they are no longer worth the effort to pick up. Yet in the world of collecting, that same coin can be transformed into a prize of immense value. It is a reminder that worth is not always obvious, that treasures can hide in plain sight, that what seems insignificant can become monumental when viewed from the right angle. And so, the 1984 penny continues its journey, both in reality and in legend. Billions still circulate, unnoticed, unvalued. But among them, hidden like needles in a haystack, are the rare ones, the double-ear varieties, the pristine examples, the coins that change everything. They wait, quietly, until someone finds them. And when they are found, the story is told again, louder and brighter than before, keeping the legend alive, ensuring that this small, humble coin will never be forgotten. The fascination with the 1984 penny, and with rare coins in general, is not only about the object itself but about what it represents. It represents chance, discovery, the idea that the ordinary can suddenly become extraordinary. This theme runs deep in human culture, echoed in folktales, in myths of buried treasure, and legends of hidden riches waiting to be found by those with sharp eyes and good fortune. The 1984 penny has simply become a modern version of that age-old story. In every jar of change, in every forgotten drawer, in every handful of coins, there lies the possibility of finding something rare, something valuable, something life-changing. That possibility is what keeps people searching, what makes the coin so captivating. When comparing the 1984 penny to other legendary coins, its uniqueness becomes even clearer. The 1804 silver dollar, often called the King of American coins, has fetched millions at auction because of its rarity and history. The 1933 St. Gaudens double eagle, with its story of government recall and legal battles, has sold for tens of millions. The 1913 Liberty Head nickel, a coin that was never meant to exist, has become a centerpiece of numismatic lore. Each of these coins shares the qualities of rarity, history, and legend. The 1984 penny, though more modern and humble, joins this pantheon because of its own peculiar rarity, the double-ear variety, the fascination of error, the possibility of astronomical value. It shows that even the smallest denomination can stand alongside the giants of numismatic history when conditions align. What makes the 1984 cent so intriguing is that it straddles the line between myth and reality. On one hand, it is a real coin, struck by the billions, still in circulation, still found in pockets and change. On the other hand, it has become the subject of sensational stories about values reaching $56 million. Whether or not such numbers reflect real sales is almost beside the point. The legend has taken on a life of its own, and in that legend lies power. It encourages people to look, to search, to dream. And in that act, the coin becomes more than metal, it becomes a symbol of possibility. This possibility also speaks to the psychology of collecting. Collectors are not simply acquiring objects, they are chasing meaning, stories, connections. Each coin tells a story, and owning it allows the collector to hold that story in their hand. The 1984 penny tells a story of modern minting, of error and discovery, of rarity hidden among abundance. To own such a coin is to own a slice of that story, to participate in the legend, to be part of the ongoing narrative that stretches from the minting presses of 1984 to the collectors of today and beyond. The cultural impact of coins like the 1984 penny cannot be underestimated. They appear in news articles, in television segments, in viral internet posts. They inspire videos, discussions, debates. They spark interest not only in seasoned collectors but also in ordinary people who never considered coins before. A single story about a penny worth millions can send thousands of people to their change jars, eyes wide with hope. This is how a humble coin transforms into a cultural icon, transcending its role as currency and becoming a part of collective imagination. And beyond imagination, there is the reality of the market. While most 1984 pennies are worth only face value, the rare double die examples, in high grades, can sell for thousands. This is not fantasy. This is documented reality. Collectors pay real money, invest real sums, because they recognize rarity and value when they see it. The astronomical figures like 56 million may represent myth, but the thousands, the tens of thousands, represent fact. And it is that mix of fact and myth, of reality and dream, that keeps the story alive and powerful. Think of the irony: a coin designed to be worth so little, designed to be nearly invisible in daily transactions, becomes the center of such fascination. Pennies are often left behind on counters, ignored on sidewalks, dismissed as almost worthless. Yet within that very dismissal lies the magic. Because while most are worthless, a few are priceless. The contrast between worthlessness and pricelessness is what makes the hunt so compelling. Every penny picked up could be the one. Every coin ignored could be a missed fortune. This irony is at the heart of the 1984 penny's legend, and in this irony lies a lesson about value itself. Value is not fixed. It is not only about metal or utility. It is about meaning, rarity, desire. A penny's worth is not determined solely by its denomination but by the story it carries, the rarity it represents, the demand it inspires. The 1984 penny teaches that value is created by context, by perception, by history. It reminds us that what seems insignificant may actually hold immense worth, if only we take the time to look more closely. The continued fascination with the 1984 penny also shows how collecting is about more than money. It is about curiosity, about discovery, about the joy of seeing the world differently. To the collector, a penny is not just a penny. It is a canvas of design, a product of history, a potential treasure. It is an invitation to look closer, to learn more, to connect with a larger story. And in that sense, the 1984 penny is more than a collectible. It is a teacher, a reminder to value the small things, to see the extraordinary in the ordinary. As time moves on, the legend will only grow. Coins will continue to circulate, continue to be found, continue to be collected. New discoveries may emerge, new varieties may be identified, new records may be set at auction. But the story of the 1984 penny will remain, a fixture in numismatic lore, a symbol of possibility and discovery. And perhaps, one day, an example will indeed sell for a staggering figure, bringing the myth closer to reality, cementing its place forever as one of the most famous coins of all time. Until then, it remains both treasure and tale, both coin and legend. A 1-cent piece that has captured hearts, minds, and imaginations around the world. A reminder that even the smallest objects can hold the biggest stories. A symbol of hidden value, of dreams waiting to be discovered, of the extraordinary hiding within the ordinary. That is the story of the 1984 penny, and that story will never lose its shine. The story of the 1984 penny does not exist in isolation. While it has become one of the most talked about modern American coins, it is also part of a global culture of collecting, a worldwide fascination with small pieces of metal that carry history, art, and value in their designs. Across the world, collectors seek out their own treasures, and in every nation, there are stories of coins that have transcended their face value to become legends. The 1984 penny fits neatly into this tradition, standing alongside coins from Europe, Asia, and beyond that have inspired similar dreams and discoveries. Consider, for example, the 1933 British penny, a coin so rare that only a handful are known to exist. It was struck but never officially released, and today those surviving examples are worth staggering sums. Or look to Canada, where certain small cent varieties from the 20th century, such as the 1921 5-cent piece, are legendary for their rarity and value. In Australia, the 1930 penny is famous as one of the country's great numismatic treasures, commanding immense respect and high prices at auction. These coins, like the 1984 penny, began as ordinary currency, minted for daily use, yet over time, through rarity, error, or circumstance, they have become cultural icons. The global nature of coin collecting shows that the fascination with rarity is universal. People everywhere are drawn to the idea of hidden value, to the dream of finding something special in something ordinary. The 1984 penny embodies this dream in the American context, but it resonates worldwide because it tells a story that anyone can understand. Whether you are in the United States, Europe, Asia, or anywhere else, the idea that a small coin could hold a life-changing fortune is compelling. It taps into the universal human desire for discovery and the thrill of the unexpected. In popular culture, coins have often been portrayed as treasures, symbols of luck, or gateways to adventure. From pirate tales of buried chests filled with gold to modern stories of lost fortunes rediscovered, coins carry a weight far beyond their size. The 1984 penny, through its legend of being worth millions, has become part of this tradition. It appears in YouTube videos that garner millions of views, in articles shared widely on social media, in conversations between friends who suddenly wonder if they too might have a fortune hiding in their change. It has become a character in a modern myth, a story retold again and again, each time reinforcing its place in cultural memory. And yet, despite all the legend and myth, the coin remains rooted in reality. It is not made of gold or silver, not struck in tiny quantities, not hidden away for centuries. It is a modern coin, struck by the billions, composed of simple copper-plated zinc. That contrast makes its legend even more powerful. Because if something so ordinary can become extraordinary, then perhaps anything can. The 1984 penny teaches that the extraordinary is not always obvious, that sometimes the most valuable things are hiding in plain sight. This lesson resonates with collectors worldwide, who often speak of the joy of the hunt more than the joy of the prize. For many, the true reward is not the money but the discovery, the moment when the eye catches something unusual, the thrill of knowing they have found something special. The 1984 penny has provided countless people with this thrill, inspiring searches, discoveries, and even new generations of collectors who might never have cared about coins before. Its influence has extended far beyond its year of minting, shaping the way people view coins, collecting, and value itself. Internationally, the coin has also sparked curiosity among collectors who may not even use American currency. Numismatics is a global community, and stories of rare pennies in the United States are discussed just as eagerly in Europe, Asia, and elsewhere. Collectors compare notes, share images, and tell stories of their own national rarities, but the 1984 penny remains a touchstone, a reminder that even the most modern coins can carry legends. In this way, the coin transcends its borders, becoming a global symbol of the collector's dream. And what of the future? The 1984 penny's legend is not static. As time passes, more examples will be discovered, more will be graded, more will be sold. Each discovery adds to the story, each sale fuels the legend. And as technology changes, with new ways to share information and new platforms for buying and selling, the coin's fame will only grow. What began as a minting error in 1984 has now become an international story, and there is no sign that its appeal will fade. If anything, it will continue to inspire new generations of searchers, collectors, and dreamers, each hoping to find their own piece of history in the palm of their hand. In this way, the 1984 penny is not just a coin. It is a story, a dream, a cultural artifact that connects people across borders and generations. It has joined the ranks of the great coins of the world, not because of its metal or its face value, but because of its ability to inspire, to captivate, and to remind us that sometimes, the smallest things carry the biggest stories. And as long as people continue to dream of hidden treasures, the 1984 penny will remain one of the most enduring and beloved legends in the world of numismatics. The story of the 1984 penny, like all great legends, is not truly about the object itself but about what it awakens in the human spirit. This coin, so small and so easily overlooked, has grown into a symbol of possibility, of discovery, of the enduring idea that hidden treasures exist all around us if we only take the time to look. It represents chance, perseverance, curiosity, and the power of belief. It reminds us that value is not always obvious, that the most common things can carry the rarest stories, and that even something as humble as a 1-cent piece can inspire awe across the globe. Imagine for a moment the minting presses of 1984, clattering with relentless rhythm, producing billions of cents that would pour into circulation across the United States. To those working at the mint, each coin was just another piece of the endless supply needed to fuel daily commerce. No one paused to think that among the billions, a few coins would carry a tiny imperfection that would change everything. No one knew that decades later those imperfections would be celebrated, hunted, and mythologized. No one imagined that the very year stamped on those coins would one day spark conversations about millions of dollars, about dreams, about legends. Yet history often works this way. What seems unremarkable in the moment reveals its greatness only with time. The 1984 penny is a perfect example of how chance can create legend. A slight doubling on Lincoln's ear, an accident of machinery, an unnoticed detail, and suddenly the most ordinary coin becomes extraordinary. That accident has since fueled decades of collecting, research, storytelling, and myth. It has turned pocket change into treasure. It has given collectors a challenge that continues to inspire. It has turned a coin into a cultural icon. And it has reminded us that even mistakes can become masterpieces, that flaws can give rise to beauty, that imperfection can be the very thing that creates value. As collectors, enthusiasts, and dreamers look toward the future, the 1984 penny continues to shine as a beacon. It tells us that history is not locked away in museums or hidden in vaults. It is in our pockets, in our jars of change, in the everyday objects we pass without thought. Each coin we hold has a story. Each date marks a time. Each design carries symbolism. And once in a while, one of those coins carries more than a story, it carries the potential to change lives. That is the magic of coins, and the 1984 penny embodies that magic more than almost any other. The legend of a coin worth $56 million may sound exaggerated, but it is not the number that matters. It is the dream behind it. It is the whisper that maybe, just maybe, the coin in your hand could be the one. That dream fuels collectors, inspires curiosity, and keeps the hunt alive. It is not about certainty, but about possibility. And possibility is more powerful than certainty because it leaves room for imagination. The 1984 penny invites us to imagine, to hope, to search, and to discover. And so, the penny minted in 1984 has transcended its role as currency. It has become legend, myth, treasure, and teacher. It has taught us about value, about history, about patience, about curiosity. It has brought people together across generations, across borders, across cultures. It has sparked countless conversations, countless searches, countless dreams. It has proven that greatness can come from the smallest places, that stories can be hidden in the humblest of forms, that treasure is never as far away as we think. In the end, the 1984 penny is more than copper-plated zinc. It is more than a coin. It is a symbol, a reminder, a legend. It is the story of how chance creates meaning, how history hides in plain sight, how dreams are born from the ordinary. And as long as people continue to dream, as long as people continue to search, as long as people continue to believe in the possibility of finding something extraordinary in the most unexpected places, the 1984 penny will live on, not just in collections, not just in markets, but in the imagination of the world. So the next time you see a penny, don't dismiss it. Don't pass it by. Don't let its size or its value fool you. Look closer. Hold it in your hand. Consider the history it carries, the stories it whispers, the possibilities it represents. Because one day, you may find yourself holding not just a coin, but a legend. And when you do, you will understand why the story of the 1984 penny has endured, why it has captivated so many, and why it will never fade from the world of numismatics or from the hearts of those who believe in the extraordinary power of the ordinary. Even though the story of the 1984 penny already feels complete, it continues to expand, because legends are never static. They grow with every telling, with every new discovery, with every person who joins the hunt. In the years to come, the 1984 cent will only gather more mystique, more weight, more recognition, until it is no longer seen as just a coin but as a timeless symbol of hidden fortune and chance. There will always be those who doubt, who dismiss the stories as exaggerations, who roll their eyes at the idea of a penny being worth millions. But these doubts only strengthen the legend. Because legends thrive on mystery, on disbelief, on the fine line between fact and dream. The very fact that the idea seems impossible is what makes it so irresistible. If everyone believed, the story would lose its magic. It is the mixture of skeptics and believers that keeps the fire burning, that keeps the hunt alive, that keeps people turning over coins with hope in their hearts. And consider what the 1984 penny represents in a world where money itself is changing. We live in an age of digital transactions, invisible payments, virtual currencies. Paper money is vanishing, and coins are used less and less. Yet here is a coin that refuses to be forgotten, a coin that proves that physical currency still holds power, not just economic but emotional and cultural. The 1984 penny is a reminder that money is not only about exchange, it is about stories, art, and history. It carries weight, texture, and presence in a way no digital number ever could. It anchors us to something real in an increasingly intangible world. Future generations will look back at coins like the 1984 penny as artifacts, as relics of an era when money was something you could touch, something that clinked in your pocket, something that carried history in its very design. And among those relics, the 1984 penny will stand out, not just because of its age, but because of the legend attached to it. It will be more than a cent. It will be a story that historians tell, that collectors cherish, that dreamers retell again and again. Imagine a century from now, a collector opening a small box and revealing a perfectly preserved 1984 double-die penny. To those around, it will not just be a coin but a bridge across time, a link between 1984 and the future. Its value will no longer be measured only in dollars but in meaning, in connection, in the awe it inspires. It will carry whispers of the era it was minted, of the people who hunted for it, of the myths that surrounded it. It will be not only money but memory, and isn't that what gives coins their real power? Not the metal, not the denomination, but the memory they carry. Coins are tiny time machines, pocket-sized history books, frozen moments that survive long after everything else has changed. The 1984 penny carries the memory of the 1980s, of Lincoln's enduring presence on American money, of the minting process, of human error turned into treasure. Each one is a snapshot of a moment, a silent witness to decades of human life. That is why collectors value them, not just for rarity, but for the story they hold in silence. The journey of the 1984 penny shows us something profound, that greatness can emerge from the smallest of places. That value is not fixed but fluid. That luck, persistence, and curiosity can turn the ordinary into the extraordinary. It teaches us patience, as collectors know the search can take years. It teaches us respect, as coins must be handled with care. It teaches us imagination, as we picture the possibilities each penny might hold. In this way, the 1984 cent is not just a collector's item but a teacher of life lessons, hidden in copper-plated zinc. And so, as long as people continue to believe in hidden treasures, as long as they continue to dream of finding something life-changing in their pocket change, the 1984 penny will remain alive in the imagination. It will remain one of those rare stories that transcends numismatics and enters folklore, passed down like tales of buried gold or lost fortunes. It has already crossed that threshold, and its power will only grow with time. So when you hear the story of the 1984 penny being worth $56 million, remember that the number is not the true treasure. The true treasure is the hope it creates, the search it inspires, the wonder it brings. That hope, that search, that wonder, those are priceless. And that is why the legend of the 1984 penny will never fade. The story of the 1984 penny has taken us through history, design, chance, myth, and market. It has shown us how something so small can grow into something so monumental. But in the end, it is not about the coin itself, it is about what the coin teaches us. It is about the way human beings find meaning in the smallest things, the way we chase stories, the way we believe in possibility. It is about hope, curiosity, and the thrill of discovery. Think about it, a coin worth 1 cent, ignored by millions, trampled underfoot, thrown in jars and drawers without thought. And yet, among those billions, a few carry a detail so rare that they rise to greatness, commanding attention, inspiring legends, sparking dreams. How different is that from life itself? How many times are ordinary people overlooked, dismissed, forgotten, until a single moment reveals their true worth? How many times do we miss the treasures around us because we fail to look closely? The 1984 penny is more than a coin, it is a metaphor for life. It whispers that greatness can be hidden in plain sight, that extraordinary things live within the ordinary, that value is waiting to be discovered if only we care enough to search. This is why the story endures. This is why collectors, dreamers, and storytellers return to it again and again. It is not only about money, not only about auctions, not only about record prices. It is about belief. Belief that the world is still full of surprises. Belief that miracles can hide in the mundane. Belief that fortune and fate sometimes sit quietly in the palm of your hand. And when that belief spreads, it changes people. It inspires them to look closer, to try harder, to never dismiss the small things. The myth of a penny worth $56 million is not just about a number. It is about imagination. It is about the human need to dream of something bigger, to chase something just out of reach, to hope that the next coin, the next moment, the next discovery will be the one that changes everything. And even if it never happens, the dream itself has value. Because the dream pushes us to see the world differently, to approach life with wonder, to treat even the smallest objects with respect. And so, as this story closes, the 1984 penny remains in circulation, both as a physical coin and as an idea. Billions of them continue to exist, pass from hand to hand, unnoticed, unvalued. Yet hidden among them are the rare ones, the doubled dies, the legends. They are out there, waiting, like secrets hidden in plain sight. Maybe they are in a coin roll at a bank. Maybe they are in a forgotten jar in someone's attic. Maybe they are in your pocket right now. That is the beauty of the story, that it could be anywhere, that it could belong to anyone, that the next great discovery is always possible. So let this coin remind you of something greater. Let it remind you that nothing is too small to matter, that value is often hidden, that treasures are closer than we think. Let it remind you that every detail counts, that patience and curiosity are rewarded, that the world is still full of mysteries. And most of all, let it remind you that sometimes, even the humblest penny can carry the weight of a legend. The 1984 penny is more than copper and zinc. It is a story of chance, a symbol of hope, a treasure of possibility. It is proof that legends are real, that dreams can be found in the most unlikely places, that history still whispers through the coins we hold in our hands. And as long as there are people willing to believe,